What's up guys, Noor here and welcome to Book of Showtime Chapter 2. As always, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like down below, and if you have a topic you want me to cover in a future video, make sure to comment that down below as well. Or anywhere you can reach me on my socials. Now that the formalities are through, let's get into today's topic. So Nicholas asked, which games didn't deserve to win Game of the Year and which should have? So many media outlets and websites have a Game of the Year award, but the one that is the most popular is easily the simply titled Game Awards. Formerly known as the Spike Video Game Awards before Spike's business model of showing cops reruns 24/7 drove them bankrupt. While there are and have been a lot of flaws with the show and format throughout the years, which we will touch up on in this video, the Game Awards has always been a fun time for gamers to celebrate gaming. But as with any awards in any media, some picks can be biased, controversial, or just outright wrong. So to answer today's question, I looked over every Game of the Year award winner from 2003 to 2021 and came away with 4 picks that I feel were the wrong pick for Game of the Year. 2003, Madden 04 over The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. I don't feel the need to explain why a football sim that drops annually, beating out a timeless and well-crafted masterpiece like Zelda is the wrong choice. To make matters worse, this is actually the first award show that they did, and they instantly devalued their credibility with this pick. Madden 04 is looked back on fondly for one reason and one reason only: Michael Vick. Anytime I see Madden 04 discussed, it's only a matter of time before the most busted athlete in video game history is brought up. Now, Madden 04 is a solid Madden, but I personally don't even think it was the best Madden at that point in time. Madden 2001 was just better, you know, it's just better to me. Zelda, on the other hand, it doesn't come around often, and when it does, it pushes the bar for gaming as a whole. Wind Waker is still a great game by today's standards. If it came out today, it would still be a fantastic game. Whereas games like Madden, they get outdated in, well, a year. This wasn't just a wrong pick, this was just a bad pick too. Especially when you look at the 2003 show as a whole, Madden didn't even win Best Sports Game that year. How can a game be the best game that year when it isn't even the best game in its own genre? This is a prime example of the most popular game winning as opposed to the best game winning, and that should never ever be the case. 2009, Uncharted 2 over Left 4 Dead 2. I just want to say for the record that I've always found Uncharted games extremely overrated to begin with. They tend to be more flash than substance, with the graphics and voice acting being great, but the gameplay being extremely average. That being said, Uncharted 2 is a solid game, but it's not Game of the Year. Left 4 Dead 2, on the other hand, and I don't say this often, is a perfect game. Seriously, anyone who's played Left 4 Dead 2 enough, try to think of a flaw with that game. Uncharted 2 was the more attractive game, I will give it that, but Left 4 Dead was the definition of fun, and that's what gaming is about, being a fun game. The campaign was dynamic, and it had a wealth of modes available on day one, which you really don't see at all anymore. There was nothing like Left 4 Dead 2 at the time, and let's be real, there's nothing like it now. There's been dozens of games that have tried to replicate the Left 4 Dead formula, and none, repeat, none have even come close to being half as fun as Left 4 Dead. Not only is Left 4 Dead 2 one of the greatest games of all time, it's probably one of the most important ones too. It basically spawned its own subgenre in the first-person shooter category of 4 players against the world, and when a game does that, it deserves its flowers and then some. 2011, Skyrim over Dark Souls. This is a weird pick for a few reasons. I never got into a single Souls game. I've played a bunch of them, but I've never gotten into them. And while I think that Skyrim is extremely fun, it does have a few fundamental flaws. And I'm not even talking about the bugs. But when I was researching for this video, I found it strange that not only did Dark Souls not win, it wasn't even nominated. With the other games on this list, I have a more stronger opinion on those choices, but with this one, not as much. But my argument here is still the same as it was with 2009's entry. Dark Souls is one of the most important games ever released, and it's also a more polished and functioning product than Skyrim is. How many games have been tagged Souls-like since 2011? Go on, go count them, I'll wait. I'm not into those games, but they do have this unique allure about them, and I've dabbled in all the Souls games except for Demon Souls. This is an entry for me to basically give my respect to the street cred that Dark Souls has amassed over the past decade. It was a little polarizing when it first came out with its, difficulty, but the world and the gameplay, it was all still fun and it was unique. I was always confused why people would subject themselves to all this pain, but then again, I've been a Mets fan my entire life, so I can sympathize with the need to suffer for fun. I do want to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. I do want to have some outside opinions on this because this is something that I initially, when I was making this video, I wasn't going to talk about this, but when I saw that Dark Souls wasn't nominated, I was kind of blown away. This is a very important game. So if you've played this series heavy or you have an opinion on this, let me know. I would really like to hear other opinions on this. Before I get into the last entry, I do want to point out a major flaw with the Game Awards. The Game Awards typically airs in early December, with the polls opening sometime in like middle to early November. And while this might not seem like a big deal, if you think about it, the year isn't over yet. A lot of games have come out in the past in December, you know, and most award shows and like other mediums, like with the Grammys and the Emmys and all that stuff, that they take place in like February or March, because it gives more time for everybody to catch up with like the best of the best. This is important for gaming because games are, one, more expensive, and it's not easy to shell out, you know, close to $100 for these things, and two, they're getting bigger. Games take a long time to beat now, so if a game comes out in like the beginning of November, you don't have a big window. You have to kind of rush through and crunch the game. You should be able to take your time with games, you know, enjoy them. In the past, you've had games like Smash Ultimate and Jedi Fallen Order miss out on chances to win awards, and while they were nominated the following year, this isn't the best course of action. Nominating them a year later just takes a spot away from another deserving game. Now, while I don't think Jedi Fallen Order would have won in 2019, which was a close one in my opinion, with Sekiro and Control, Resident Evil 2, all those games were great that year. I think that was the most tightest and balanced list we've ever seen. It did have some of the best music, and I feel like that music should have been showcased at the event. And this December, you're going to have another big release. Callisto Protocol is hitting the shelves just in time for Christmas, and while it probably won't be beating Elden Ring, let's be honest, nothing is, it's probably going to be one of this year's best offerings. If the Game Awards wants to be a celebration of gaming, they should do the right thing here and push the Game Awards back about a month and change or so. 2020, The Last of Us Part 2 over, well, everything. Seriously, every other game outclassed The Last of Us Part 2 in one way or another. I can make this whole video about why The Last of Us shouldn't have won Game of the Year, and honestly a lot of the other awards it won. This is bar none the most polarizing game of all time, with critics absolutely loving the game and gamers kind of just hating the game. The game did have great graphics and animations, but honestly it wasn't that good to look at in terms of the environments, and the story was just weird. The structure of the story was kind of odd, and the pacing was, the game just stretched too long. I've seen people complain about games being too short, but honestly the argument should be the other way. Games can stretch too long. And the gameplay honestly was the definition of nothing special. But as to why every other game should have won, well, here we go. In terms of being an important release, The Last of Us Part 2 did showcase how clear of a disconnect there is between journalists and gamers, but Animal Crossing New Horizons brought everyone together during a time where we were confined to our houses. We were able to maintain this sense of community and friendship during a really dark time in our history where we needed love the most. In terms of sequels, the delta between The Last of Us 1 and 2 isn't that spectacular, whereas Doom Eternal took everything that made Doom great, ranked it to 11, and expanded on the depth of the gameplay in new ways. In terms of being a great game, Final Fantasy VII had, well, better characters, better music, better story, better everything. It was just quite simply a better game. In terms of the grounded and gritty revenge story, Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us had some similar plot elements, but Ghost of Tsushima executes them way better, in addition to being a fresher game with way more engaging gameplay. And lastly, while I haven't played much of Hades, it did make people on the internet horny, and I don't see anybody being horny over The Last of Us 2, so there's that. Whereas every other entry to this point has some degree of greatness to it, The Last of Us 2 isn't great at all. There's really nothing special about it. I wouldn't even say it's a good game. It's a very mundane experience that leaves a legacy for all the wrong reasons. Out of all the games before it, this was easily the least deserving Game of the Year winner. Alright guys, that does it for Chapter 2 of Book of Showtime. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and share it with your friends. And let me know in the comments down below what you guys think are the least deserving Game of the Year winners. Let me know if you agree, because some of these takes can be considered hot, except for The Last of Us 2, because I would absolutely die on that hill. Thank you guys so much for watching. Inshallah, I will see you in the next chapter.